Welcome to the Beyond Normal podcast. My name is Kenny Groom. I'm excited to have Avery Hicks. He's the owner of Avery Hicks Associates, which offers disc assessment training to the next generation of sales leaders. So glad to have you on, Avery.
Hey, thanks for having me today, Kenneth. Really appreciate the time.
Certainly. So I want to hop right into things with you. Can you give us a little bit, just a little bit of background of where you've been in your career leading up to you being the owner of Avery Hicks Associates?
Good. Well, yeah, my career started off in the automotive industry. I started selling cars, seemed like 30 years ago, and I went from selling cars to becoming a manager of the dealership. I did finance of the dealership, general sales manager, all the way from A to Z. I did it in the automotive industry. And so one of the things for me was that the one area that I really loved the best was the training aspect. And so for me, it was a pretty easy transfer from when I retired out of the automotive industry to go into the sales training business.
And I think at one point, certainly times have changed, but I remember that car salesman being like the image of what a salesperson was supposed to be.
Yeah.
So that's definitely a great place to kind of earn your sales chops, I would say.
Yes, it is. It's an eye opener because it wasn't what I expected. I hadn't planned on getting into sales, but when I found the doors shut on opportunities, I said, you need to pay rent. And so you need to go and find a way to make a living. And so getting into car sales was the next best thing. And I got in it and just really enjoyed it, really loved it.
All right. So you speak about, that training component to the sales process from your previous experience in the auto industry that kind of piquing your interest a little bit. What was the deciding factor for you to say, hey, I need to go into ownership model where I have my own business? Like, what was the thing that kind of pushed you off the cliff?
I think the biggest thing was I had got to the point to where I felt that, okay, everything that I have done in the automotive industry, I wanted to go do on outside the auto industry. Once I realized how much I really enjoyed sales training, watching people win, watching people who had never sold anything come in and be successful, it became natural that, okay, Avery, I think that's the career you're going to want to start your own business when you leave here. And so I couldn't really wait. I was excited because I felt I had a lot to give back to the next generation that was considering being in sales.
I love that answer. All right. So, next up, just want to know you took that leap of faith, starting your own business. What's one thing that you may have wanted to know prior to starting your business that you kind of had to earn your stripes, earn your lumps when it came to being a business owner?
One of the things, when you're in a team environment as an automotive dealership, like I said, I managed people, and so I had a team around me, and so I had to delegate duties so that I didn't have everything to do myself. When you become an owner, your own business, you're wearing all the hats. And when you're wearing all the hats, your time management becomes real critical, making sure that you are not wasting any second of the day because something needs to get done. And so that was one of the biggest things that I learned or I struggled with in the very beginning is that, okay, Avery, you're a one-man show. How do you handle everything that you normally would handle for business and then still talk to customers and be successful? So that was a big learning lesson for me. Actually reached out to some other entrepreneurs and they gave me some good advice. And so I'd recommend that you take a look at it when you're going into the business by yourself.
Because those different hats will put you in situations you're not accustomed to, right?
Exactly. And probably more importantly is the one thing that you are supposed to be doing is taking care of your clients and generating revenue for your business. You find that you're not having time to do that. And that's the foundation of your business. And so you build a team. And what I learned to do, and that's where the associates come from. I had to build a team to help me so that I could focus in on generating revenue and bringing on more clients for us.
Mm-hmm. So you mentioned that associates in the name of your company now, right? So you've
Yes.
gone from wearing all those hats yourself to, you put that team in place.
Yes. Yes. It's important to notice that,
Assessment, right? You
yes.
leverage that disc assessment. So for those who aren't too familiar with that disc assessment, that tool, can you give them just a quick overview of what that tool
Yes.
does and how you leverage that with your business?
Exactly. The DISC assessment, basically what it is, it's a 4 behavior quadrant. And of the 4 behavior quadrants, it's a DISC. The D stands for a dominant behavior. The I stands for an influencer behavior. The S stands for steadiness behavior. And the C stands for compliance behavior. Each one of us will fall in all those 4 categories, but one of those will be the highest. And how we utilize that DISC assessment is, in order for you to be successful, one of the areas is to know your self-awareness, to know who you are, how you react under pressure, how you react under change. Once you can identify that, then it gives you leverage when you're communicating, because tailoring it toward the sales industry, what we want to do is be able to communicate with our clients in this natural communication style that they want to hear. And so once I identify who I am, I identify who the customer is, now we're putting ourselves in a communication area to where they start to trust us more because we're talking their language, basically. And so it's been effective, especially for not only just sales, but communication skills. You talk about graduates, and even in our company, we all talk differently. And so it's helped us be able to communicate with each other.
We discussed this a
Yes.
little bit before the conversation we're on now, just around what that disc assessment means, and I can from my experience, you're spot on for that, right? To say, hey, it just helps like who you are and how you're going to interact with certain people, and it's interesting how it kind of highlights the ways that you may have friction with certain individuals. It kind of puts somewhat of a quantitative kind of measurement on some of the things we naturally see in our day-to-day with our eye, but we don't know there's something behind it, right?
Exactly. And when you take a look at it, it's, behaviors are adaptable. You can work with your natural behavior and your adaptive behaviors. The key to it is knowing who you are. And once you can identify that, and it also lets you know what your strengths and your limitations are. If you're talking about getting into a career that you don't really know, it might give you some indications whether you're going to be happy in that career. And that's something that's going to be real important too. And so when you deal with communication, it's the essence of most recruiters I talk to. When you're talking about college graduates and you're talking about them moving into their new careers, the one skill that they always talk about is, do they have communication skills? And this is one of the areas that will help you define your communication skills.
I think that's a good segue into my next question, just around you kind of mentioned with the recruiters and the next generation of sales leaders that are coming up, right? Which yes. I think you're really focused on making sure they have those tools. So what is something that you're seeing for I guess that millennial generation kind of and younger around just the areas where you feel like we're strong in, and maybe some areas that may be an opportunity?
First of all, I love that generation because they have the areas that they're strong in is they're passionate about their beliefs, and the areas that I think they struggle in is communication, because you're communicating with different adults, you're communicating with different people, and just be honest, they have grown up utilizing the phone more than maybe actually talking to someone. And that's not a bad thing, but when you're going for a job or you're in the sales industry, a lot of your work is going to come face to face before you can start utilizing the phone. And so I think with this generation here, the more communication skills they can get, and based upon recruiters that I talk to, they wish that they had more communication skills when they came out of college, Therefore, the companies that they're going to will be able to advance them more in their career because they do have the communication skills that you need.
Yeah, and that's something, me putting myself in that situation. Obviously, I'm in that millennial generation, so I think that's spot on. With just we're used to communicating, right, that certain way.
Yes.
But I think it's good to your point around the DISC assessment, just have it's a simple pros and cons around, where you're at right now, where you want to be. And I think that's important for, business owners really across all generations to kind of recognize, because to your point, you said you're wearing multiple hats and you're going to be in uncomfortable situations, and based off of your natural tendency, right? You're going to find yourself in uncomfortable situations. Yes. And as long as you recognize that uncomfortability, right, usually you can find a way to maneuver it, versus kind of lingering on, why am I feeling so uncomfortable right now?
Yes, exactly. And as you move up the ladder of your career, you're going to be put in some situations, especially if you're headed toward leadership roles, and understanding that when you are talking to a group of people, not everybody that you're communicating to may understand what you're talking about. They may understand the processes that you're talking about, but you might be using terminology that they're not familiar with. And so at the end of the conversation, they may come up and then say, now, can you explain what you were talking about again? That's what they're saying. I heard you, but it didn't make sense to me. And so just the natural way of life is to be able to communicate effectively, and at the same time, be able to take that knowledge and gather the customer's information to be able to serve them. And that's the best way to, if you're going into sales, you're going to need to communicate to your customers.
Yeah, I like that advice. Keeping that focus on kind of knowing how to communicate with people. We're, the current pandemic, right, with COVID-19. How do you feel like that has, impacted the way that people are communicating? And is there anything from the DISC assessment that we can maybe pull in when thinking about how we're interacting, communicating with people remotely?
I think right now, I think the DISC assessment is a tremendous tool to have if you're struggling with understanding and communicating with different people. And especially, like you said, with this COVID-19, people are struggling, and everybody handles situations differently. And so to tell someone that, hey, just, get over it, or, it'll be okay. You don't know how their behavior, so you can't say that to them. And you may say the wrong thing, and that might send them off on a different tangent that you hadn't expected. But if you understood how they want to be communicated to, then you could have that conversation, and it may not seem near as dire. But with this COVID-19, there's a lot of pressure on a lot of people out there that's just undue pressure, and they're struggling with it. They're really struggling with it. And so I think the DISC assessment will allow you to say, okay, this is who I'm speaking to. Let me say what I need to say to them, but in the language that they're going to be receptive to it.
Mm-hmm. Are you delivering training, the DISC assessment based training? Are you delivering it remotely right now?
Yes. Basically, what will happen is, if you decided that you wanted today to do the DISC, take a DISC assessment, you would sign up. I would send you a link to the DISC assessment. Once you've taken it, then it will come back to me. I would send you a follow-up letter what the DISC assessment is. Then we would spend about 45 minutes, and we just give you some basics of what it's saying. And the key to it is, it's opened up a lot of eyes, because a lot of people will say, well, yeah, that sounds like me. Or, I see myself doing those type of things. But self-awareness is at the top of any, no matter what career you're going into, you need to be self-aware and know who you are and how you're going to handle different situations, because the company you're going to, they don't know you that well yet.
Mm-hmm. And so, I think COVID-19 is the first pandemic, or the first thing affecting us all right now. I think the second thing, and and not to rank them, but these are the two things that, you know, are top of mind for everybody right now. The second thing being kind of, you know, the highlighting of the racial injustice going on. Obviously, you know, we all have seen George Floyd and just the different situations that are playing out right before our eyes, as we all have nothing but time on our hands to look at these things right now. So they're front and center. But, you know, what are your thoughts around that, and how, you know, I'd like to dig a little bit more on how, you know, it's affecting how your businesses run, or, you know, how your employees are feeling right now.
It's a tragedy. First of all, it's a tragedy what happened to George Floyd. And, you know, we as a nation, United States, whoever, we have to have our humanity come back. We have to, our empathy, you know, we have to be able to sympathize with each other and not be wanting to judge on the other hand, you know, not wrap it up into 4 or 5 other different things. Let's talk about this issue we have here. Let's work through this issue, and then we can talk about the other issues that we have going on. And as a business owner, and, you know, I have clients of all races that I deal with. And I'll be honest with you, a lot of the clients that I've talked to during this time, we've actually got on the phone and we hadn't even talked about business. We've been talking about this. How can we work through this so that I understand you better and you understand me better? And so look for the good, you know, look for the good. Yes, it's tragedy. You know, I've been around a little bit on this earth, and things like that shouldn't be happening. And so we all need to find a way to reach out, understand, communicate, and see how we can bring this thing all, wrap it up. And but it's not going to come easy. Change is not easy. And so, you know, it's going to take some hard work. I like to say I've had a few conversations with some millennials, and they've kind of given me their opinion on how they're going to get it done. And I tell them, hey, I'm 100% behind you, because obviously we have not done enough. And so we need that help. So, but it's a time to just listen, just communicate, and put some things in action, and then let's move forward.
You know, these are conversations that we have to have.
Yeah.
And it's not like, I think this point about it where, you know, the DISC assessment, right, it allows us to figure out how we can communicate with people kind of one-on-one, me and you know, how we're flexing to, you know, each other's natural tendencies. But I think some of these questions that, you know, we're bringing up, they have to be brought up. And if they're brought up in a group setting, you just ask it to everybody. And knowing how, you know, certain people react, you're going to wait for them to communicate in the right way. And I think that's really the best way to approach it as a leader right now.
Exactly. And listen. And if there's a situation where you don't understand, ask them again. Hey, can you explain that again to me? Because I just didn't understand it. You know, how you feel or how you're communicating that too, instead of assessing it and then saying, okay, this is what they said. You'd be completely wrong.
You know, I think that's a good way to, you know, close out the questions, you know, that I have for you. So, I always ask or allow my guests to close it out, you know, with, you know, any last kind of things they want to leave this audience with. And then on the other side of that, you know, how can people get in touch, learn more, you know, about that DISC assessment, and how Avery Hicks Associates can help them out?
Okay. Well, thank you. Well, you know, first of all, you know, I want to thank you, Kenneth, for allowing me to be on here today. It's neat to be on your podcast. You know, for us at Avery Hicks Associates, you know, our focus is on mentoring and developing the next generation of sales leaders. You know, our programs is set up to basically take you from A to Z. If you're considering a sales career, if you're a college graduate, you're going into business, communication, or marketing, and you still need some sales skills, some communication skills to round out what you already learned in college, we want to work with you. The DISC assessment will just give you a better idea of who you are and how you're going to learn and how effective you can be in your next career. You know, we have a saying that the level of your success will be determined by the level of your preparation. So we want to get you prepared so that you can be successful in your career. If you like what you hear, you can go to averyhicks.com, which is the website. And on the website, you can book a 15-minute consultation. It's free, to talk to you a little bit about what you're trying to do. What are you trying to accomplish? And see if we can help you get there. Because at the end of the day, success is a choice. Make the right choice.
I love it. I think that's a great way to close out. Avery, I appreciate you joining. I know plenty of business leaders after this are going to be reaching out, making sure that they get that DISC assessment done. I've taken it myself. Like you said, it's just a good tool to have. You mentioned, the fresh out of college, somebody who's just needs to make sure that they hone their craft around communications and just some of those soft skills. I'd also challenge any entrepreneur out there, just take this just take this assessment to see, where you fall in terms of how you like to be communicated to, and how you go about communicating with others. And just, they may get some tips around how they got to flex their style and just be a little bit more mindful of, the environments that we're in. So, I appreciate you being on, Avery.
Hey, thanks. I appreciate it. I'm excited. I'm excited, especially talking about the DISC assessment. So I'm glad you taking it. And it was ironic when we started talking. I was like, okay, I can tell Kenneth's communication style.
Certainly.
Yes. All righty. Well, thanks, Kenneth.
Yep. Thanks everybody for tuning in to the Beyond Normal podcast. Have a great day. Thanks for tuning in to the Beyond Normal podcast. I can be reached by cell phone via call or text at 980-263-9921. I'm interested in connecting with other business owners across different industries and looking forward to the conversation.